So yeah, I was asked to bring out Phoebe from the collection. There's a kind of an interesting-ish story. I don't know if anybody's heard it when they've been to the museum, but if not, or if you have, I apologise. But I was here when we first got this building, so that's about 6 years ago now. We weren't open. I had a paintbrush in my hand and was just trying to decorate and bring the place to look vaguely respectable. Failed. And somebody walked in and said, I've got a donation for you if you want it. You know, and hardly anybody knew the place was here. Certainly not the press or anything at that time. So it must have been an online sort of source of information that he had found us. But anyway, so he walked in and he said, I've got a machine for you. It's an Acorn Phoebe. And I said, oh, okay, right. And I was completely thrown because I just didn't expect to see anybody anyway. Even more thrown than somebody walking with a Phoebe. So I said, oh, right, okay, and what's inside it? And he kind of looked at me like I was a muppet, and which not wrong, but he said, well, it's a Phoebe. So I said, yeah, I know, but what's inside? What have you got inside? Because I don't know if anybody knows, but there was, for a long time on eBay, Phoebe cases were available to buy. The warehouse was full of them, and people were buying them and sticking all sorts of things in them. So I just kept pushing him. You know, what is it inside? Have you stuffed an A3000 in there or a Pi, or what have you done? And it is a Phoebe. It's a Phoebe that I was working on back then, and yeah, it's just has never really seen the light of day. The project was cancelled. So the project was cancelled in 1988, I believe, yeah, that was it. So sort of took this donation for this machine that I didn't even know existed. I didn't know that the machine had actually been physically made, as it were. I knew they were working with the cases. I knew they were working on boards and things. I didn't know it actually come to any kind of fruition. Yeah, so this is that machine. Now, this all looks a little bit over the top, and I'm sorry, but I need to self-examine for a minute. No, so everything we do here, we're an accredited museum, and in terms of preservation standards, there's things that we do that make sure that everything in the collection is as well looked after as it possibly can be, which means if it's in the accession collection, which Phoebe is because, well, there is only the one or two of this built to this level, that we make sure that we protect it as much as we can, which means not getting our greasy fingers and everything else all over it. So the gloves are to protect the machine. We've also got it on an anti-static mat, which is dubiously connected to the earth pin of the mains plug underneath the desk. So I'm going to switch over to the other camera now. So let's see if this is going to work. So if I say to this system, share my screen and share that one, boom. Okay, so hopefully you can see the other cameras now, but it's going to be a bit delayed. Got thumbs up there, good, right, okay. So, on the wide, that's that one. This is the machine. It is the Phoebe, lovely yellow colour, as you can see. I really like it. A lot of people hate it. This is the machine. It's got a floppy drive, has a CD-ROM drive at the top there, a couple of bays for something else that you might want to add to it later. Obviously, it never was. It's based around a strong ARM processor, an SA110, running at about 233 megahertz, I think. And basically, it was it's also known as the RISC PC too. So this was the next step on from the RISC PC. It, in my mind, and people can correct me, I'm no expert on this. This was basically adding, the most important feature to me was adding the PCI bus to the system, allowing that much more expansion. Obviously, the chips inside, the I/O chip was more advanced. The VID-C was a new chip for it. So in terms of the oomph inside it, there is obviously a lot more, but one of the big things for me was adding that PCI just to bring it a little bit more in line with other boards that were out there at the time. Anyway, there she is. I have another camera up here as well, so you'll be able to see inside, hopefully. Carefully as I can. Okay, so if I switch to that camera, oh, everything's delayed, it's really annoying. Just do it on the screen there. So, everybody see that okay? Unfortunately, there is a bit of a story with it. We were shouting our mouth off for a long time, saying this is the only working Phoebe in the world. Then it went and died. So yeah, it's not anymore. I think it is actually technically working, but I don't think the graphics output is working. So it does seem to boot up and do things, but we have no graphic output. And when it was dying, it was that the let's go back to Y for a second. It was that the screen was failing. It would kind of come on, go off, come on, and do sorts of weird things, corrupt a little bit, and go a little bit doolally. So I have a feeling whatever is wrong with it, that it is something to do with the graphics output. But anyway, very kindly, Andy Nightingale, that we just saw his system units there, has been getting other people involved and having a look at the machine for us. And we've done a sort of well, they have done a basic look at it just to check the obvious things. So how you look at the power supply seems to be okay, and various things like that. And hopefully at some point after lockdown, maybe we'll get to the point where we can have another look at it and investigate a little bit further. But like I say, I'm no major expert on this, but we have two flash ROM chips down here, I believe. So these are what was being used to create the sort of low-level code for it at the time. I don't know if you see that over there. No, you can't. Turn that around a little bit. This isn't easy. That way. Just about to see it. Down there it says issue 1-002 on there. We've got RAM chips. So we've got SD RAM over here. Everywhere I move it, it's the wrong way. Can't really see it because of the angle. There you go. So we have the RAM down there. Crystal, we've got this kind of riser card here. Now this is quite interesting because that has the strong arm processor on it. I can just remove that from the board. So I can focus that bit down for you. There you go. So that has the strong arm processor card on there. Not really sure what all these are. Now, if anybody can or wants to jump in and give me a little bit of advice on this, I am more than willing to hear.
I'll be kind of debug stuff of some variety, probably bringing out the processor bus, I guess.
Yeah, I think it'd be debugged in some way. Anyway, so that's a strong arm. Like I say, it's an SA110 running at 233 meg, according to the things online. There's a little interesting modification there. Don't know if that little chip there may be the voltage regulator, I'm not sure, but you've got a little piece of wire going across from R25 through to that first pin. Lovely little development kind of fix there. So let's put that in there. Yeah, we still focus on that. No, completely out of focus now. There we go. So yeah, then we have there. Okay, so what was that? Yeah, that looks all right. So we had this expansion card. It's kind of the whole main PCB is kind of the expansion card on its side that plugs into this backplane here. So it's kind of the reverse of like a PC where you have, a the average backplane system. The riser board here is the one with all the PCI slots on there, and there's seven PC slots at the bottom. So all your cards would go in that way at the bottom there. At the top, let me see if I can just move the camera rather than. So we've got the PC power brick there. That's pretty standard, I think. Just different connections on it. And then we've got a hard drive in here that has been imaged. Flibble took an image of that, and I believe that's what was used to create a lot of the emulator that's online for it. And that's kind of about really all there is to say, I think, anyway. So actually, if we just looked at the main board again, if I'm going closer, let's have a look. That's as close as I can get. This is enough, I think. So this is IOMD2. That was one of the new chips developed for it, and VidC20 is up here. What's that one there? I don't know. I'm kind of a complete guess, but I have a feeling it might be as simple as a connection issue on VidC. I don't know. But anyway, it's beyond me. This is above my station. But it's really interesting. It's a kind of a tale of how companies end up having to drop their the work that they're doing, because I think this thing, I'm going to switch over to the other camera if I can. Where is it? I've got the left and right screen swapped round. So I have to move my mouse off the end of that one to get to this one over here, or something like that. Anyway, so yeah, it's a bit of a sad tale of when companies sort of drop a product. Basically, this was dropped because well, it wasn't panning out very well. The operating system wasn't very stable. There were problems with DMA. Sound wasn't working. A number of different things. I'm sure that could have all been sorted over time, but you know, time costs money. They'd already sunk a huge amount of money into the development of it. And bottom line is, Acorn weren't playing in the kind of fields that I suspect they wanted to be playing in. So you know, this was a powerful machine. It would have been a competitor to PCs, but they were just too dominant. There was far too much else going on there, far too much money being thrown at them, and they considered this was going to be of interest to the enthusiasts that were out there, and that was not a big enough a market for them. So they dropped this in favour of looking at digital TV and things like that. But you know, sadly, again, that didn't pan out for them either. So yeah, I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Hi, yeah, thank you for that, Jason. I don't think we're recording at this second. We were recording that talk there. So yeah, this will be the Q&A section now for the next few minutes or so.
Not too technical, eh?
Yeah, I'll start the ball rolling if I may, which is at the time you got it, when it was sort of working. Did it boot into you know, a RISC-OS?
Yeah. So yeah, it was. So when the guy dropped it off, I literally had a paintbrush in my hand, so I didn't really want to get paint all over it. But come about 30 minutes after he had left, this bad boy or bad girl, it's Phoebe. All the chips in it are named after characters in Friends, by the way. It was powered up and working within about 30 minutes of him leaving. There was no way I wasn't going to see what this thing was at. He told me it worked, and it had also been taken around a number of shows and demoed. So I can't remember what version of RISC-OS it was, but it is online because it got documented. Again,
it's RISC-OS 3.8.
3.8, right?
Yeah, so it's basically a beta version of RISC-OS 4.
Right. But what they were doing with it is they were demoing it playing 4 or more videos at any given time. So that's not that impressive these days. But the demo that they love to show was 4 different videos all playing on the screen at the same time, and everybody went, "Oh, this is incredible! This is the future." Yeah, that's what they were doing with it, to show how powerful it was.
Just to see, we are still recording.
Oh no! Did I pick my nose? Okay, I've got gloves on.
Any more questions for Jason?
Yeah, I was wondering if at the time the Phoebe was developed, USB was just becoming a standard thing, and would it have had USB support? I haven't looked at the circuit diagrams or anything.
That's a good question, actually. I didn't ever notice USB being
No, there's no USB on it.
There's no USB on it, no. And did it have the support for it? I doubt it.
No.
It hardly had support for sound or anything else at the time. It was right in the middle of development. I would imagine USB was going to come at some point. Sarah, you might know a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think USB was ever really on the roadmap for Phoebe.
Okay.
If they had added it, it would have been, you know, a PCI card with USB on it.
Mm.
But I don't think they'd even started thinking about it.
Mm. Yeah, it's quite a sad tale, really, of something just being axed. It must have been really hard if you were working on that, and it just gets axed. Stop, everything stopped the next day. Really sad.
Yeah, I mean, there was a problem really that it was being left behind. I mean, Phoebe would have been a competitive machine 2 years before they were planning to launch it.
Yeah.
So for a late '98, early '99 machine, it was just too far behind.
Right. Yeah, sad.
Can I ask what those 2 slots up the top are for? I presume one's a floppy and one's a CD drive.
Yeah, floppy drive up here. Don't know if that is that. Can you see? Yeah, that is. Floppy drive there, hidden behind the front panel, and then you've got what is it? It's a Pioneer CD, or it might be DVD actually. Pioneer.
I think
drive
it's CD.
It was just CD, was it?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Slot loading Pioneer drive there. I know those. I had a Pioneer slot loading DVD drive on my PC. It was amazing.
And what's the next slot for?
And what could have gone in the other 2 slots at the front?
I'm guessing pretty much whatever you want. So these are kind of pull-out panels. So they this is effectively pretty much your average PC case. So you've got push-out panels inside there. It's not a standard PC case, but it is getting there. And you could have put whatever you wanted in there. I suppose a second IDE thing, or whatever. Basically the same ideas as a PC. How does that go back in? I've got to the bottom now to get that one in. Oh, there you go. Oh, hello, Brian.
Hello there, Jason. I just thought, as we're doing weird machines that only didn't quite make it, I've just opened up my Omega to have a look inside.
Just open up what?
My microdigital Omega, which was essentially what came along later and probably was essentially Phoebe in its spec, and it was strong ARM with PCI and faster memory bus. But of course, they, rather than creating custom IRMD and VIDC chips, they just used great big FPGAs.
Yeah.
I just thought, sorry, carry on.
Have you got it there?
Yes. I was just going to see if I can point my laptop camera at it and whether it'll even be visible, but let's have a go. See what happens. Let's move this closer.
Ooh.
Yeah. Does that show up? No, not like that. Maybe like that. Is that showing up for people? I can't really tell here.
Yeah.
So, as you can see, massive great tower case with a fairly small motherboard, really. So.
Yeah, whereas the one in the Phoebe is pretty big.
Yeah, so strong ARM right in the middle there. I'm guessing that's the great big FPGA. Oh no, Xilinx. Is Xilinx is it? That's over there. Probably can't see that behind the cables.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Riscos 439 in it. because it would take. It came with RISC-OS 4. I did stick RISC-OS 439 in it, and then promptly turned it off again after that because it was so much faster running RISC-OS from RAM rather than from ROM. It's in the old RISC PC, it didn't make much difference, but in here you're kind of running 8 megahertz ROMs as opposed to 133 megahertz RAM. So it's much quicker to soft load the OS than run it from ROM. So those ROMs aren't actually in use, but never mind. I might take them out at some point. As you see down here, PCI slots. So that's the network card, that's the sound card. There's one SIM up there, I think it was 256 meg. I have no idea what's under that gravy heatsink. Probably the
That'll be an FPGA.
That's probably the video chip then, I imagine, I guess. Or it's just a giant FPGA doing everything, I've no idea. Yeah, and this was my main RISC-OS machine for, I don't know, 10 years or something.
So are Apple now going to be doing this again? Now they're using ARM-based processors in their desktop machines.
Is that definitely happening? I haven't been following. Or is it still just a rumor?
I think it will happen, or is happening. I don't know whether they're not released as yet, but I think it will happen.
I think it's a rumor, but a highly credible rumor.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if they stop using Intel processors and use their own ARM-based processors, it just takes another entity out of the supply chain, which is very much the way Apple goes.
Oh yeah.
And as the iPad gets closer and closer to the Mac, it's inevitable.
Yeah. Yeah, be interesting to see. Anybody have any other questions?
Go on then.
I saw the black bit, the name. We named our dog after it. Yeah, and the name Phoebe's not there because, of course, when you search on Google, it has Phoebe where that the disk drive is.
Yeah, there were. I've seen a couple of different designs of cases, but very slight. Basically, it's only the screen printing that changes. There are a couple. I think we also have one of the cases that was on eBay. Just an empty case in the collection. That's got a slightly different design, and it has Phoebe printed on it. I think it's just up there. But yeah, there's just a
So
slight.
how do you know it's a Phoebe?
Because it's got a Phoebe board in it.
Ooh! Does it actually say Phoebe on the board?
If it turns out not to be a Phoebe, I'm not going to be happy. Reasonable question. Let's have a look.
Does he know?
Does it say Phoebe on it? Yes, it does.
Woo!
I'll do it with this camera. I don't know whether this camera can. I've got to prove it now. Is that readable? Yeah?
Wow. Let's get a twin.
Issue 1.
Lovely.
Acorn Computers, 1988. I can't see on my screen if that's all of it.
1998.
Oh, 1988, sorry. Yep. And I have the glasses on. Oh. So, yeah. No, I think as with a lot of these things in the early development stages, things change all the time. So, yeah, just the fact that it hasn't got Phoebe printed on the case is just probably because they decided at some point, well, actually, let's make sure that is on there. And these would have been the ones that were being worked on at the time, and the later ones would have been ready for production. So they were branded up better.
Is the names on all the other chips?
No.
Are the names of the friends, are they on the chip?
Yeah,
No,
it doesn't actually say that on the chips. That's
okay.
They give these things names, just for internal sort of fun and stuff. You often see the names on circuit diagrams and stuff like that, and occasionally you see the names underneath the chips. So if you take I think the Commodore Amiga was that next to it or under it? I can't remember. But on the main board, if you take the chips off of it, underneath you can see their names, but you wouldn't take those chips off.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, this is all, naming chips is all a bit of fun that the techies have when they're doing these things. I'd like to know why they chose. Well, there's obvious reasons. Friends was brilliant, but you know, it would be nice to know why they chose Friends.
And
From
any signatures on it? Oh, sorry.
So I said, for what
Is there
it's
any
worth.
signatures? Oh, right.
So, no, you go.
I just wondered if there was any signatures on it. You know how sometimes they have the people that made it and things like that. That was all. But you go, Sarah.
I was just going to comment that Chris Cox, who was running Acorn Workstation Division at the time, has apologised for both the case and all the Friends names in it.
Has apologised? Why? That's the best thing about it. Yeah, no, I don't think there's anything to apologise for. I think it's cool. I love the fact it's called Phoebe. And I never really, again, so when it came in about, what, 6 years ago or so, I knew of Phoebe, I knew of the legend of it, as it were, but I didn't know a great deal more about it at that point in time. So when one turned up, I was really surprised. But then it was another couple of years, I think actually it might have been at an Acorn event, when somebody said, oh yeah, all the chips are named after Friends. And I thought, oh, that kind of makes sense. That does make sense. I never thought of it. But yeah, I think it's fun. More computers should be named after people in sitcoms.
One final question from me. I was wondering how you're looking at documenting the board and I don't know whatever else is available on it. I know there are circuit diagrams about. I've seen them on Stardock forums, but I was wondering how closely it's been looked at to see about potential of designing a new board to go in, you know, so that people could actually own a Phoebe as such.
I think the problem with that is all the custom chips are on there. So VidC20 and OMD2, you know, they're it's not just a case of creating the board. It's going to be a case of recreating those chips as well, and they are not simple chips. We're not going to be doing that with TTL series chips anytime soon. So I can tell you what we've been doing. We have gone through our collection, or are going through our collection. We have supporting documentation for it in various forms, some printouts, some sort of documentation about the implementation of the chips and things. Getting those scanned. Flibble has taken quite a lot of that stuff and scanned and got those out there. So everything that we have, we try to preserve in terms of the physicality of it. So looking after the machine, looking after documentation that goes with it, and software or whatever else we can get. So we have an image of the hard drive. But then in terms of, I think yours probably going more towards reverse engineering the board and making them available. That's not our remit of what we do. However, we love it when people use our stuff to make that happen. So we've had a guy come and do the IMSI 8080. Andy had a look at our System 1 and that sort of thing. And you know, for people to come along, take a really good nose at things and try to make rebuilds and stuff, brilliant. Love it. We can't do it. We don't have the wherewithal, time in the day and all the rest of it. But we're really willing to help anybody else do that. So taking ROM dumps as well, we're doing that all the time for everybody. Every week we'll get another request saying, oh, you've got this machine, can you possibly give us a ROM dump? And we say, we're quite careful, we say, yes we can, but you kind of didn't get it from us. Oh yeah, oh crap, this is recording. But you know, it's not doing any harm. And it is another further process. We take ROM dumps for ourselves. We put them on our server. We don't make them publicly available because it's slightly iffy. And from our point of view, we shouldn't be seen to be doing that. But we do take those, and if people ask nicely, they fall out of our pockets. But yeah, no rebuilds for us as such, unfortunately.
And if you did rebuild it, the operating system software support is pretty unfinished for Phoebe. Yeah, sound. So I think sound doesn't work. PCI has not been implemented. Floppy drives don't work. I don't think ports I don't think serial parallel ports work. And there's just numerous other issues with it.
Makes more sense just to build a brand new machine of some other thing.
Yeah, well, no.
Yeah, there probably isn't much point in terms of anybody else having one of these to do anything with. But apart from just the joy of owning something like that, but then it's not the original anyway. I don't know. I mean, for me, quite a lot of the rebuild stuff doesn't have the same feeling that having the original stuff does. And I know I'm in a bit of a better position, obviously being involved in the museum and walking around this stuff all day. But even if I think I was just doing it personally, it is all about having the original machines. As much as I love the rebuild projects, brilliant. Especially when you're able to make those available to other people that wouldn't get to have these things. That's fantastic. But at the museum, it is about having the original stuff. They say with a copy of an Apple One, but anyway, whatever.
Did anyone ever get these circuit diagrams and things for the microdigital Omega? Because that was almost like a rebuild of Phoebe, wasn't it? Since it was re-implementing it all as FPGA. So
did microdigital actually release any of that stuff?
Well, I don't know, but presumably I've forgotten the name of the guy who did it, and I can't. But if he's still around, I wonder if he kept the documentation of how the FPGA was done. Because these days, I'm sure you could get quite a cheap FPGA to do it. And 20 years ago, it was quite tricky. But
yeah.
FPGAs are amazing. I love them. The things that are being done with them now to keep old machines alive, replacements of components and things like that, fantastic. Absolutely the best thing ever. Anything else?
Yeah, question for Sarah, actually. The ROM, I don't know if I had a quick look through it on the Phoebe. I noticed on the circuit diagram there was a post port implemented as per normal RISC PC, but I couldn't see anything in the ROM code that was actually running, trying to write to the post port. So I was just thinking if we ever get round to getting my Acorn engineer buddies to have another look, I've got a post adapter that I've built up that runs fine on the RISC PC, but just struggling to see how that could run on the RISC PC too if we ever get to that point. But any comments on that one?
I don't know if that was implemented. I mean, I did look at this a few years ago because I did the Phoebe emulation in RPCMU. I didn't take credit at the time because I was working for ARM. But I don't remember seeing anything around that.
Yeah, I was just double checking with an expert, as it were, because as I say, the hardware's there. It just sounds like then nobody's put anything in the ROM or basically scrubbed it for something else.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, they probably wouldn't have much in the way of posts in a machine of that level of development.
Thanks. Yeah.